Today, like every other day, was full of heaviness and silence when Dad came home from work. I know I should write about happy moments because my diary is supposed to be my refuge from dark days. But how hard it is to pretend everything's okay when there's not a drop of warmth in your childhood home. When Mom cooks dinner, she always seems so withdrawn and lonely. Today, I watched her slowly stir something in the pot, her eyes filled with sadness. Mom never contradicts Dad, she always follows his orders, as if she's afraid to even look him in the eyes. I often find myself thinking that I don't want to live like this. My home is always filled with heavy silence when Dad is around. From the moment he steps through the door, everything becomes tense. Today, like always, he said dinner should be ready when he gets home, and I shouldn't even be heard. Those are his rules, his house, his laws. Sometimes I feel like I'm just a shadow in this house. It's strange to feel like a prisoner in your own home, to be afraid of every noise, every glance. Sometimes I find myself forgetting what my own laughter sounds like. Have I ever really laughed? I'm almost 18, and I'm still here, in this cage. I wanted to ask Dad for some money to celebrate my birthday with Melissa. I know he'll probably say no, but I need to try. At least to feel like I can change something. Maybe tomorrow will be the day I finally dare to take a step toward my freedom. This morning was filled with a strange mix of hope and anxiety. I woke up earlier than usual and even allowed myself to dream a little before getting up. Today I turn 18. It should be a special day, right? But in my world, special days don't look like they do for other girls my age. I remembered how Melissa talked about her birthday. Her family threw her a party with friends and gifts, and she felt truly loved and important. I've always envied that, but today I decided I want a little warmth and attention too. I want to feel like I matter. Gathering all my courage, I went downstairs to the kitchen where Mom was already making breakfast. Dad was sitting at the table, flipping through the newspaper, and the atmosphere was surprisingly calm. It seemed like a good sign. Dad, I began, trying to keep the tremble out of my voice, today's my birthday. I wanted to celebrate it with Melissa at a cafe. Can you give me some money? He slowly looked up at me, and I saw his brows furrow. Mom froze, holding a spoon over the frying pan, and I felt the air around us grow thicker. We're not millionaires to be feeding your friends, he snapped, not looking up from his newspaper. Invite her here, let your mother cook something. No need to waste money on nonsense. My heart sank. How could this be? I just wanted a bit of joy, a break from this endless boredom and sadness. But as always, my dreams crashed against the wall of his indifference. Okay, Dad, I whispered, feeling tears start to fill my eyes. I hurried back to my room so he wouldn't see me cry. Mom gave me a sympathetic look, but what could she do? She never contradicted him. Closing my room door, I hugged my knees and just sat there, staring out the window. Tears streamed down my cheeks, but I tried not to make any noise. What should I do? How can I live with the constant feeling that I'm worth nothing, that my wants and dreams don't matter to anyone? I texted Melissa that the meetup was canceled. I can't invite her here, to this cage. I don't want her to see how I live. I don't want her to pity me. Today it was hard even to remember the last time I truly felt happy. Maybe I really don't deserve anything good. But deep down, I still hope. I hope that one day my dreams of freedom and happiness will come true. After yesterday, when my dreams of celebrating my 18th birthday were crushed, I didn't expect anything good. This morning, Melissa called. Her voice sounded excited and optimistic, so different from the gloom of yesterday. Hi, Mari. You won't believe it, I have an idea of how we can celebrate your birthday. Forget about yesterday. We'll make this day unforgettable, she exclaimed. I was surprised. How? You know, my dad. I know, she interrupted me. But listen, I know a security guard at a nightclub. We can party there all night. He'll let us in without any problems. It'll be our little secret. My heart skipped a beat. Sneaking out for the entire night? It was crazy, but also thrillingly crazy. Melissa, you don't understand. If my dad finds out. He won't find out, Melissa said confidently. You'll leave when he's asleep. I'll come by your house at 2 in the morning, knock, and we'll go. It'll be an adventure. You want this day to be special, right? I hesitated. In my mind, the fear of my dad was battling with the desire to do something wild, something for myself. What if something goes wrong? I asked quietly. Nothing will go wrong, Melissa said firmly. I'll be with you. Don't be afraid, Mari. Sometimes you just have to take risks. I looked out the window, and something clicked inside me. I was tired of being the obedient daughter, tired of living in fear and depression. Maybe this was really a chance to change something. Okay, I said, my heart racing with the anticipation of freedom. I'll do it. Melissa, thank you. Great. It's going to be the best birthday ever, Melissa exclaimed. We hung up, and I was left alone with my thoughts. I felt both scared and excited. For the first time in many years, I felt like I had control over my destiny. I spent the whole day waiting. Each hour felt like an eternity. When it got dark, I started to get ready. Dressing quietly so as not to wake my parents, I packed a small bag. My heart was beating in time with the clock on the wall. Midnight came. The house was plunged into darkness and silence. I lay on my bed, staring at the dark window, waiting for 2 o'clock. This night promised to be the start of something new, something of my own. For the first time in a long while, I felt true excitement and freedom. When I looked out the window and saw Melissa, the world seemed to stop. She was smiling, waving at me, and whispering, "Let's go." In that moment, I cast aside all my doubts. My heart was pounding so hard it felt like it would burst out of my chest. We got to the club quickly. From the outside, it looked unremarkable, but as soon as we went through the back entrance, a whole different world opened up before me. Bright lights, loud music, laughter, and shouts, it was all so unfamiliar and exhilarating. Melissa grabbed my hand and pulled me into the crowd. For the first half hour, I just stood there, looking around. I saw people dancing, laughing, kissing. Melissa already knew many people there, and they greeted her cheerfully. She was like a fish in water amid this madness. Then she came back with glasses full of some sparkling drink. "Come on, Mari, relax. It's your day and your night," she shouted in my ear over the music. I drank it down in one go, feeling the sweet liquid burn my throat and leave a pleasant warmth in my stomach. Melissa smiled at my reaction and pulled me to dance. The awkwardness slowly faded, and I started moving to the music. With each new cocktail, my confidence grew, and soon I was no longer that shy girl in the corner. The dance floor pulsed with energy, and in that rhythm, I almost forgot about my past, my home, my fear. But then I met him, a guy with a smile that could light up the entire room. He suggested we go to the bar. "I'm Alex," he introduced himself, ordering us more cocktails. "Maria," I replied, feeling myself blush. Alex seemed so easygoing and fun, and talking to him flowed naturally. He talked about his travels, the music he loved, and every word made me want to know him more. When we returned to the dance floor, the music seemed louder, the lights brighter, and the night longer. I forgot about everything except this moment. We danced, laughed, and it felt like nothing could ruin this night. But time flew by, and soon Melissa came up to me. "Maybe it's time to go home," she shouted in my ear. I nodded, trying to catch Alex's eye. "Just 5 more minutes," I shouted back, promising it would be quick. Melissa smiled and headed toward the restrooms, probably to order a taxi. Quite drunk, I turned to Alex, not knowing how to hint at continuing the night. From that moment, I couldn't remember anything else. Sleep vanished as soon as I opened my eyes. An unfamiliar ceiling, strange street sounds outside the window, dim light. This was not my room. It took me a few moments to realize where I was. I lifted my head and saw him, Alex, sleeping next to me on the pillow. Last night flashed through my memory in bright colors and music. Alex and I had a great time dancing and talking. He offered to drive me home, but we decided to stop by his place to continue our conversation. After that, everything became a blur. I remembered laughter, his voice, gentle touches, and then suddenly waking up in a strange apartment. My heart pounded in panic. I carefully got out of bed, trying not to wake Alex, and started looking for my things. My clothes were scattered all over the room. My bag was on a chair, and my shoes were next to it. I quickly got dressed, trying to convince myself with every move that everything was okay. Last night, I felt free, happy, invincible. Today, every cell in my body screamed that I had made a mistake. I didn't know how to explain this to Melissa or my father. I ran outside, and the cold morning air hit my face. The world seemed completely different. The streets were almost empty, and I hurried to the nearest bus stop. My mind raced with thoughts of the consequences. Dad. What would he say when he found out I didn't spend the night at home? My phone showed 34 missed calls from my father. My stomach tightened with fear. I knew what was waiting for me at home. As I approached our front door, I took a deep breath and went in. The silence in the house was deafening and unwelcoming. As soon as I closed the door behind me, my father's voice cut through the air. Where have you been? His words sounded like a sentence. I remained silent, trying to gather my thoughts and emotions. But before I could say anything, he stepped towards me and slapped me across the face. The pain burned my cheek, and I fell to the floor. I don't want to hear your excuses, he yelled. You're grounded. Just like your foolish mother. He ordered my mom to watch over me and not let me leave the room. Mom, with tears in her eyes, just nodded. She never contradicted him. Locked in my room, I felt shattered. Everything that happened last night seemed like a nightmare. I texted Melissa about everything that happened and closed my eyes, trying to escape from reality. Tears mixed with feelings of guilt and shame. At that moment, I realized I couldn't live like this anymore. I had to change something. But how? After a terrible night spent in fear and loneliness, morning came, but its light brought no relief. Mom brought me breakfast, carefully placed a plate on the table next to my bed, and quickly left without meeting my eyes. Apparently, she was even more afraid of Dad than I was. I spent the entire day in my room, reflecting on my life and how everything went wrong. My thoughts were shattered, just like my dreams. The walls of my room felt like prison bars, and I felt like a prisoner in my own home. My father locked me in and went to work, leaving strict orders for my mom not to let me out. Mom would sometimes come to the door, listening to me cry, and I could hear her quietly sobbing on the other side. This was our little world of sorrow, where everyone suffered in their own way. When evening came, and I had resigned myself to the thought that my days of freedom were over, there was a knock on the door. It was my father. He entered without asking for permission, his face a mask of anger. You need to understand the consequences of your actions, Maria, he began, his voice cold and sharp. Do you think you can just go out and spend the night wherever you want and everything will be fine? I looked at him, trying to hold back my tears. Dad, do you think you run this place? Have you brought a single cent into this house? You're worthless. You broke all the rules of this home. You disgrace us, he interrupted me. He didn't want to listen. I could see that my words only fueled his anger. He continued to stand in the doorway, like a guard keeping me from the world outside these walls. I don't trust you anymore. You'll stay here until you learn to behave properly. After his words, the room felt even smaller, even more suffocating. He left, slamming the door, and I was left alone with my broken dreams. I walked to the window and stared at the stars. How often I had dreamed of escaping, of a new life where I could be myself, where I could laugh and be happy without fear. But now those dreams seemed so distant and unattainable. Yet, deep down, I knew I couldn't give up. I had to find a way to break free. Not today, not tomorrow, but someday. I wrote to Melissa about everything that had happened. Mari, your father is a real jerk. Sorry for being blunt. You're a grown girl now, isn't it time to start your own adult life? As I fell asleep, I thought about Melissa's words, about Mom, about her quiet sobs behind the door. She was a prisoner too, just like me. Maybe together we could find a way to freedom. But first, I had to endure. Endure and keep dreaming. Mom came into my room early in the morning. She closed the door quietly, as always, but this time I saw a determination in her eyes that I had never seen before. Mari, she began, sitting down next to me on the bed. I have something to tell you. I looked at her, noticing her hands trembling slightly. What is it, Mom? I asked, feeling the tension build. All these years, I've been saving a little money. For you, Maria. So that when the time comes, you can start a new life. Away from this house, away from this prison, she whispered, barely daring to meet my eyes. Tears welled up in my eyes, and I took her hands in mine. Mom, what about you? She shook her head. It doesn't matter. What matters is you. I want you to take this money and leave as soon as you can. I can't stand to see you suffer. We hugged, and in that moment, I felt closer to my mom than ever before. But our quiet connection was brutally interrupted. The door burst open with a loud bang, and my father appeared in the room, rage in his eyes. What's going on here? What are you whispering about? He asked harshly, glaring at both of us. Mom stood up, trying to hide her anxiety. Nothing, Klaus, we were just... I heard you talking about money, he interrupted, stepping closer and looking at us menacingly. So that's where the money I was looking for went. You've been saving it behind my back. Mom tried to explain, but Klaus wasn't listening. You think I'll let her leave? She's not going anywhere. That money is mine, you hear? Earned in this house. No, Klaus, I suddenly said, feeling a determination I had never felt before. Mom saved that money for me. And I'm leaving. You can't keep us here forever. We stood there, staring at each other, and the room was thick with tension. Father seemed taken aback by my words, his face turning pale. I'll find a way to get that money. You'll see. Be here tonight, both of you, he snarled through gritted teeth, but something in his eyes had changed. Maybe it was uncertainty or even fear. Slamming the door, he walked off quickly. You must leave immediately, darling, Mom said. I nodded, my heart pounding with fear and excitement. I will, Mom. And I'll find a way to take you with me. We hugged again, and I felt a new hope growing inside me. A hope for freedom, for a new life without fear and oppression.